As I try and explain in Unleashed, if you look at it, much to my amazement, within weeks of having delivered the full Brexit and really taken legislative control of our country, for the first time in 45 years, we had the power to set our own regulation. That came good. And 27 EU countries waited and waited and waited to give approval to vaccinations for COVID. And because we were outside the EU, we damn well did it within weeks. And as soon as we had the vaccines. And that made a material difference. We had the fastest vaccine rollout. We got drugs into elderly, vulnerable, frightened people faster than any other European country into their arms. And we had protection faster than anywhere else because of Brexit. Now, people say, it was all a disaster. I say Brexit saved lives.
It's bad enough that the former Prime Minister is allowed to get away with this absolute bollocks unchallenged on UK news shows. Now he's out spouting it across the world. Johnson has repeatedly made this claim about Brexit and the vaccine rollout.
People always say, well, we'll get to that, so I can't complete this point. Why can't I complete this point? Go ahead. People say, well, we'll get to that. We'll get to the vaccine rollout. But then we had the freedom, yes, because of the particular model of Brexit that I had fought for. We had the freedom to vaccinate faster than anybody else. And that saved lives. And the idea that Brexit saved lives is one that I think people will find infuriating, exasperating, but it's true. And it's there at the heart of the story.
It's absolutely disgraceful for the former Prime Minister to keep repeating this. It's completely untrue and continuously goes unchallenged. As I've said many times, EU legislation enacted into British law already allow countries to temporarily authorise vaccines without waiting for approval from the European Medicines Agency. In fact, the UK government always made it clear that it could authorise vaccines unilaterally under European law before we left the EU. Don't just take my word for it. Here's the actual head of the UK's Medicines and Healthcare Products Regulatory Agency, June Rain.
We appear to be getting authorisation for this vaccine ahead of our friends in Europe. I was just wondering, does the fact that the UK is no longer part of the EU, did that make any difference to the speed with which you were able to complete the authorisation?
We have been able to authorise the supply of this vaccine using provisions under European law, which exist until the 1st of January.
And if that's not enough for you, here is the independent fact-checker full fact. Under European law, the UK was permitted to act independently to approve the vaccine in an emergency. And here is Channel 4 fact-check. As a UK government press release from 23rd of November 2020 states, if a suitable COVID-19 vaccine candidate becomes available before the end of the transition period, EU legislation which we have implemented via Regulation 174 of the Human Medicines Regulations allows the MHRA to temporarily authorise the supply of a medicine or vaccine based on public health need. So even if we were still a member of the EU, the UK regulator would have been able to take this decision on its own because EU law already allows it. We simply cannot allow those previously in power to just rewrite history like this.